Good afternoon. I've just had a very productive meeting with President Biden, Chancellor Scholz, and President Macron. We focused on two issues. Firstly, the situation in the Middle East. And let me start by saying that no one should mourn the death of Hamas leader Sinwar. On his hands is the blood of innocent Israelis killed on the 7th of October and over years of terror, and also the blood of the Palestinian people who suffered in the chaos and violence that he sought and celebrated. We continue to support Israel's right to self-defense, particularly in the face of the attacks by the Iranian regime. Allies will keep working together to de-escalate across the region, because we know there is no military-only solution here. The answer is diplomacy. And now we must make the most of this moment. What is needed now is a ceasefire in Gaza, the immediate and unconditional release of all hostages, immediate access for humanitarian aid, and a return to the path towards the two-state solution as the only way to deliver long-term peace and security. The dire humanitarian situation cannot continue. And I say once again to Israel, the world will not tolerate any more excuses on humanitarian assistance. Civilians in northern Gaza need food now. The UK strongly supports UNRWA in the vital work it does in Gaza, across the OPTs and the region. UNRWA must be allowed to continue its life-saving support. The suffering must end, including in Lebanon, where we also need a ceasefire, to implement a political plan based on UN Resolution 1701 that empowers the Lebanese armed forces, strengthens UNIFIL, and allows communities on both sides of the border to return to their homes, delivers humanitarian and economic support to the people of Lebanon, supports democracy, and bolsters the Lebanese state. Second, we discussed the war in Ukraine. Building on the conversation I had with President Zelensky at Downing Street last week, we remained united in our support for Ukraine. We have always said that it is for the Ukrainian people to decide their own future. So we're clear, together with President Zelensky, that the only acceptable outcome is a sovereign Ukraine and a just peace. We want to see Ukraine thriving and secure, and we'll work together to make that happen. And while the situation is incredibly tough, it is also true that Russia is getting weaker. This war is soaking up 40% of their budget, and last month Russia suffered the highest daily casualty rate so far. So we discussed how to speed up our support for Ukraine, and the UK is delivering. 95% of the equipment that we promised to fast-track in July is now in Ukrainian hands. And together with the G7, we're working to send 50 billion euros of support to Ukraine, drawn from the proceeds of frozen Russian assets. So as Ukraine enters a difficult winter, it is important to say we're with you, we're absolutely united in our resolve, and we'll back Ukraine for as long as it takes.